And he's a journalism major, and he actually has won an Emmy and a Peabody Award. And Christina's from a small town outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and she was a science fair participant. And one of her favorite films growing up was the documentary Spelling Bee, a film we happened to show many years ago at one of our first series. And she wanted to do for science fairs what Spelling Bee did for Spelling Bees. She didn't think they should be getting all of the attention. And that was part of her motivation for this film. So now I have Dr. Kula here. So if anyone has any questions that they would like to direct to her or me,
I can actually come back down here. It's a little bit more comfortable, then I won't fall. So it's a hard act to follow watching that film. And I'm sure, I know some people sitting next to me were crying, so that's good. Am I being filmed? You didn't tell me a lot about what filming me, listening to me. Does anybody have any questions about?
any questions that either of us or anybody?
Let me ask in the audience, any parents of LICEF or ICEF? Congratulations. Oh, wow. That's awesome. How about any mentors in the room? Anybody host a student in their lab at Stony Brook or BNL or some of the other universities around that? Hi, Tim. How are you? So the film was fantastic. The kids are awesome. I can tell you just a brief little bit about myself. So Dr. George Baldo, who's actually a Port Jeff resident and should really be here, he started the program at Ward Melville High School, which is called INSTAR. So it's a capital I, little n, capital STAR, which basically stands for Independent Science, Technology, and Research. And it started as an after-school club. A woman by the name of Melanie Krieger was at Ward Melville at the time, a science teacher. And she had started as this kind of, let's just get together and talk about science, and we'll read some science journals, and we'll get some students interested in things that are going on and maybe prepare them for the university and writing their college essays and things like that. She left Ward Melville. I believe she went to Plainview Old Bethpage, but don't quote me on that because that was before my time. And George was hired in 1998. And then he really blossomed the program into what it is now, which is a 3-year program at Ward Melville. We are a 3-year high school, so we only have grades 10 through 12 in our building. The students actually apply to our program, and it's a blind application. It is based on grades somewhat, but it's also based on an essay that they do and some teacher recommendations. The reason why we have students apply to it is because of that big IN piece, which is the independent piece. In order to be successful in some of the projects that we were able to see in the film, the kids really have to have great time management skills, and we can't allow their interest in something outside of academia and their high school career take too much away from what they unfortunately do have to do in high school. And I think the boy from West Virginia was a very good example of frustrating students that sometimes teachers come in contact with who are amazingly brilliant, but won't do the work that they have to do in order to, graduate high school. So we still have an obligation in our roles to make sure that kids are prepared to move on to the next level. But Robbie is a perfect example, and I could feel his math teacher's, tough love with him in her dealing with him never wanting to do his homework and ending up failing her class. So the INSTAR program is a 3-year program. Students come in as sophomores, and we do something different at each level of the year. But the culminating time that they're in our program is the summer that they spend, usually between their junior and senior year. We really try to get the kids involved as soon as possible with some sort of research experience. And any school, including Serena's school, Jericho, the COMAC team is here tonight, and other schools on Long Island who have the resources and the dedication from the community have programs much like the one that we have at Ward Melville. So it is not, it's not unique. I think George started it, like I said, in 1998, but many schools have followed suit. So there are amazing programs all over Long Island. And one thing that Serena mentions in the movie about it being very competitive, it's extremely competitive. And the situation that the kids here on Long Island have, while they do have the opportunity to be exposed to a lot of wonderful resources and fantastic universities and researching institutes, the competition here on Long Island is off the charts. So kids that actually go to fairs from Long Island are doing amazing work. I mean, they're doing college level, even graduate level work. Some of the students that I work with every day, I have a PhD, and I think about, we were talking out in the foyer earlier about, would we ever get into the schools that we went to now, competing with all the kids that we have now? And I ask myself that every day when I ask a student, could you please define that word for me? Because half the time we're looking at things that they're writing, and they are just doing amazing work. So one of the things that I think you should really take an appreciation away from with the film, not only that the kids are amazing, they really are, and they are a lot of fun to work with, and they are really a neat mix. They're not all just smart and things come easy to them and they're geniuses in math and science. They have great personalities. I always laugh at the part of the film where the boys from Kentucky are playing the trap music, and so I'm sure that was that may have been a learning point for some of you in the audience who don't know what trap music was. But it's interesting, my kids right now, in my one section of seniors, they're into Neil Diamond cover songs. And so every day they come in and they grab it and they put on, and they're like, and they sit and they kind of dance, and they're looking at their work. Right now we are in the throes with most of the kids on Long Island who are doing research are now submitting to the Regeneron Science Talent Search. And so many of the seniors who will submit to that will go on to then try to compete at LICEF. So LICEF is the Long Island Science and Engineering Fair. And they showed clips of that from Crest Hollow Country Club. They hold it in the middle of Nassau and Suffolk, kind of equidistant between the two counties, and all the kids go there, and it's quite a big day. And then that feeds into ISEF. But my point about Long Island being very competitive, one of the things that I love the film, and the kids are awesome, and it makes me proud all the time that I have the opportunity to be involved with a program like this. But one of the things that I wish that it did more, just because I'm sure there are plenty of mentors who see the film, and there's really not a lot of mention of how the kids got to the point where they're competing so highly at LICEF. And that's something that for the parents in the room, that if your student worked with somebody who was at a university, the people who donate their time, and many times as a graduate student, Tim, I don't know if you had your student work with anybody in your particular research.
I just did work with them.
It's a rite of passage for graduate students. So when I was in grad school, we had the same thing. We had kids come through, and we would get paired up with a student from high school, and we would help them work out something. Or it's a postdoc, depending on the type of lab it is. But the mentors really do an amazing amount of giving back to the forwarding of science and making sure that kids have experiences. Many of the things that the students were hinting about, like the SRC interview or the IRB, these are committees that they have to go through to make sure that they haven't done anything that the ISEF committee believes is not appropriate for a high school student. So they don't like them to work with anything warm and fuzzy. So no vertebrate work. They don't want them killing anything or hurting anything. Even if they do a simple survey or a social science project where they talk to their peers or they interview the community, they have to get permission slips, and they have to have all of that pre-approved to make sure that no one is being harmed in the process of them collecting their data, which is kind of cute. But there's a lot of rules. And in fact, I just printed up the LICEF rule book, and it's 24 pages long this year, and actually I think that's the shortest it's been in a couple of years. There's a lot of ways that kids can become disqualified just by not filling out their forms correctly. So one of the points that Dr. McCullough from Jericho makes about the whole idea of training kids to stand on their own feet. We do all of that practicing that you saw her doing with her students in the hotel, and all of the nitpicky stuff about the detail, and why does your poster not tell the whole story? A poster board that the kids were talking about has to be set up in such a way so that a judge can get a good feel for what you're talking about very quickly before they start asking you questions.